The 24-25 Championship season starts next week. Let's have a look at the bookies' final predictions as we head into the new season and see where they think teams might finish. Hello guys, I hope you are well. I hope you are excited because I am. We are so close now to the start of the new season. This is going to be our final look at the upcoming Championship season. We're looking at the bookies' predictions today, and from next week we are going to be having the return of the weekly predictions with Sophie. Tomorrow, myself and Sophie are doing our official 1-20 Premier League predictions, and if you haven't already checked out our 1-24 Championship predictions, be sure to do so. We did that a couple days ago. Today, as I say, we're having a look at the bookies' final predictions. Be sure to share your predictions down in the comments. Remember, this is not my prediction, so don't get mad at me, get mad at the bookies. And remember, with the bookies' predictions, take it with a pinch of salt. Yes, they are trying to work out who they think are the better teams and the teams that will go down, but you do find with some clubs being bigger than others, the bookies might have their own stance on certain things and why the prices are how they are. Before we get into the video, let's go for 2,000 likes. It takes 2 seconds to hit the thumbs up button and it really helps the channel out, so make sure to do so. And please be sure to subscribe. As you can see, we are so close now to 70,000 subscribers. I believe we're only about 20 subscribers away, so hit that subscribe button if you like your football content and want to help me out. Let's have a look at the bookies' final predictions. So then, if you need reminding, or if you haven't seen one of these videos before, it's going to be through a tier list. We've got the top 6, the top 12, the mid-table teams, the teams staying up, and the bottom 3. And we're going to put them onto this tier list in order of the bookies' final predictions. And let's work from the bottom to the top, going through each team. Maybe no great surprises that the bookies have gone for Oxford United to finish bottom. Now, myself and Sophie have also predicted Oxford to go down, but it's not that we think there's no chance that they stay up. We just think they're probably one of the more obvious choices to go down, and I'm not surprised the bookies are going down there. I think because Oxford are this new entity and maybe they came up as a bit of a surprise package, there is, you know, some doubts about how they might do. To be honest, even if Oxford had signed Mbappe and Haaland, I still think the bookies would still have them down there. In terms of the actual business, we have spoken about it. Matt Ingram, Louis Sibley, Jack Curry, they did lose Josh Murphy. I think this works perfectly for Oxford United. They can come up and they can be written off by everyone, and if they go down, fair enough. But if they stay up, they can laugh in everyone's faces. In 23rd place, the bookies haven't really changed their minds on Plymouth Argyle. They've been down here since the sort of start of the summer. The bookies are not too convinced. Plymouth did just about stay up on the final day. They have brought in Wayne Rooney, and that's probably where a lot of people have their reservations. But I think you need to look at it from both sides. Yes, Wayne Rooney did a terrible job at Birmingham City. When he was at Derby, he did okay. He could still prove to be better than what we think he is. Maybe the best is yet to come. As for Plymouth, yes, they limped over the line, but if you take away that poor run of form under Ian Foster, wasn't it? They were actually a decent team that probably wouldn't have been in too much danger. They just sort of fell away, but then they did, you know, get a few results at the end of the season. So maybe, you know, it's a bit harsh to put Plymouth down there. Myself and Sophie haven't gone for it. We've tipped them to stay up, but I can maybe reason and understand why the bookies are going for it. In terms of their business, we've spoken about the fact they've brought in Ogbeta, Diaby, Sissoko. The key thing is Whittaker, and he's still there at the moment. The final team going down, and this one did surprise me, but the bookies have gone for Millwall. I don't see it. I've put Millwall in my top half. The bookies seemed really split, you know, on this relegation sort of prediction, should we call it. Oxford and Plymouth seem to have strong odds on them being relegated. Millwall, Preston, Cardiff, those sort of teams, the bookies are all kind of split on, and Millwall are just coming out as the 22nd place prediction from most bookies, which is rather interesting. I don't see it. Yes, they weren't great last season, but they ended the season in brilliant form, and they come into this season with positivity and optimism with Neil Harris, so I don't see it. The bookies have gone for it anyway, with Millwall down there. A couple of outgoings, but as we've said, some of the incomings like Langstaff really could be good. On to the next category then. The bookies have Derby County just surviving. interesting. I think Derby will be battling for survival. Myself and Sophie think they could just go down, but they could just stay up. You know, I'm not saying there's a team that is a dead certainty to be relegated. I think the Championship being as open as it is, everyone's got a chance at survival down there, and everyone at the top end's got a chance of missing out or going up. Do you know what I mean? So Derby County, their business has been all right. The likes of Corey Blackett-Taylor, Ben Osborne, Caden Jackson. A couple of the pre-season results have left a little bit to be desired, but it's pre-season. How much do you read into that? On to the next team. I always think the bookies are harsh with Preston. They've put them 20th. And yes, okay, they ended the season in some terrible form, but if you look at the big picture here, when have Preston actually ever been that far down the table over the last few years? They're always mid-table at worst, really, aren't they? So I think it's a harsh pick there for Preston to be down there. They haven't had a lot of business, I suppose, and they have lost Alan Brown. Maybe being a little bit inactive in the transfer window is why the bookies think Preston might fall down. But they do this every year. They always underestimate Preston, which could suit Preston North End fans. They could just prove them wrong. Next up, Blackburn Rovers. I think this is one I think is a reasonable prediction, having Blackburn in and around the relegation battle. The bookies do think Blackburn might just stay up, but as I said, the odds between Blackburn, Preston, Derby, Millwall are very, very close here. So the bookies a little bit unsure about Blackburn. Same thing as I said for Plymouth. Really crucial to see what happens with Smodics. And as we get closer to the season starting, it does feel like the talks have really accelerated about him possibly going. But he hasn't gone. That's the main thing. He's still there at the time of recording, but something might happen. You never know. And then finally, in 18th place in this category, I also think this is quite harsh, but the bookies have gone for Cardiff City. Once again, if you're a Cardiff fan, you have every right to feel insulted by the bookies' prediction, but I think once again you could just go out and prove them wrong. I mean, to be fair, I underestimated Cardiff last year. I'm not making the same mistake. I've put them mid-table this time round because I thought they were really good with Baloo, and if anything, I think they're only going in one direction, and that's probably up the table, if not holding in mid-table, which is what I've gone for. So yeah, the bookies being a bit harsh on Cardiff there. Their business has actually been all right with the likes of Callum Chambers and Chris Willett coming in. Decent, and there's no transfer embargo this time. Let's move into mid-table then. Who do the bookies think will finish in 17th? They've gone with Watford. Myself and Sophie have been similar with Watford. We think they'll slump down the table a little bit. I just think it's one of those clubs that there isn't as much positivity and optimism maybe in comparison to other clubs. Because Watford were maybe so used to being in touching distance of the Premier League, they were either in the Premier League or in the Championship trying to get back there. But as we said, the parachute payments have run out. They're going into this season with an untested manager in a sense. That's not to say I don't like Tom Cleverley, because I think he did a good job towards the end of last season. But it's not quite the same picture, is it? They're not quite what they used to be, maybe not as feared in this division, but they could prove people wrong. You know, they brought in Doumbia and Sissoko, could be a decent team potentially. Also in mid-table, Swansea City. Is it safe to say Swansea should be around here? Because that's what the bookies are going for. We've spoke about Swansea's business, Gonzalo Franco, Young Ji Sung, Vigouroux coming in. It could be okay. They could be okay. They just need a more comfortable season, you know, no more transitional seasons where they're changing the manager and trying to figure things out. I could understand last season. Every club, every team has a season like last season for Swansea where they changed things. And the main thing is they didn't go down, did they? They were still relatively comfortable in mid-table. They've got enough quality to be in mid-table again, I think. Above Swansea, in 15th place, the bookies are going to go with Bristol City. A little bit harsh. I've got Bristol City a little bit higher than this, especially after last season. I thought they were quite good, and it's really given them a platform to go off coming into this season. The bookies, not too sure. They've dropped Bristol City a couple places, not too far down the table. As we've said, a little bit of business. Sinclair Armstrong is the one that stands out to me the most. As we said as well, though, still got Naki Wells and Tommy Conway, and the main thing is when you've got goals, you'll keep yourselves away from trouble. Above Bristol City, in 14th, the bookies are going for QPR. Yeah, I'm not sure, you know. I mean, I think I can see who the dark horses are going to be. I could be completely wrong, but I look at Millwall, I look at QPR, I look at Sheffield Wednesday, and after the way they ended last season, I think that's got to be an indication with the transfer activity beside it that they would be the dark horses. The bookies, I suppose they're going for a slight improvement for QPR, up to 14th place. Last season, in the end, they finished in 18th place, and they've probably been one of the busiest teams in the transfer window in the Championship. But I do like Cifuentes, so I have QPR higher personally. The bookies are going in 14th place. 13th then, the final team in this category, the bookies are going to go with Pompey. Now I've got Pompey to stay up, probably a little bit lower than this, but what a great club to have back in the Championship. Maybe the fact that they are a new entity and they were so good in League One, and they're a big club, the bookies feel like they can boost their chances at finishing higher. I'm not saying that I don't think they can finish 13th. I think they've got every chance of being there. That's not too bad. And it's not that outlandish. Maybe the bookies are learning that after last season with Ipswich, anything can happen in this division, and you've maybe got to treat those teams that have come up from League One with a bit more respect. We've spoken about Silvera, Archer, Josh Murphy coming in. Really like that. Colby Bishop, as I say, I think he could have a good season. So yeah, keep your eyes on Portsmouth. That wraps up mid-table, and we've done the bottom half now. Let's move on to the bookies' final predictions for the top half and the playoff picture. In 12th place, they're going to go for Hull City, which is actually quite similar to where myself and Sophie went. We went 13th for Hull. I think Hull City's fans are some of the most divided on where they might finish coming into this season. Not in a bad sense, but in a sort of sense that it's such change, you don't know what to expect. And I think it really could vary for Hull City this season. If they get things right and get the right replacements in, I don't doubt that they could be in a playoff race again. If the business is not great and the new manager doesn't get off to a great start, yeah, bottom half potentially. So maybe the bookies are playing it relatively safe with Hull, putting them in the middle for now. As we've said, we've seen a few players going out. Philogene, Greaves, Delap's not coming back. Gives them a little bit of money to play with, and I do really like Ryan Giles as a signing. I think that's probably one of their best bits of business so far. So Hull fans, share your thoughts. I've seen some of you commenting saying playoffs, some saying mid-table, some saying bottom half. On to 11th place, and we come on to Stoke City, one of the most divisive teams when it comes to predictions. In my opinion, I'm not being horrible, Stoke. I just think everyone overestimates you. And it's not because I think, oh, Stoke are rubbish. Why does everyone think they're good? It's not as simple as that. It's just the track record speaks for itself. There's no doubt they could definitely get into the top half this season. I think the business has been quite good, but I've felt that before in previous seasons for Stoke City. Maybe it's a work in progress. Maybe if Schumacher can get them into the top half, as we see here with the bookies, 11th place, that's a platform to go on into the next season to push for the playoffs potentially. But as we've said, they've not had a top half finish in the last 5 or 6 years in the Championship. So yeah, it's difficult with Stoke, but I can respect it. I can respect them being in 11th. On to the top 10 next, and this is the same as what myself and Sophie have gone for, I think. Sheffield Wednesday top 10. I definitely had them in 10th. I think Sophie might have had them 11th, and I can see it. I think this is one where the bookies have got it right. Maybe the reason they've put Sheffield Wednesday up a bit and not QPR and Millwall so much is because of the size of club. Sheffield Wednesday are massive, and if everything is settled and Danny Roll gets everything perfect in this summer transfer window, I can see a playoff finish. I really can. You know, I think for me, when I did my predictions, there was probably 8 teams in mind for the playoffs. 8 teams in mind for the top 6, and then there's always one that might come out of nowhere. And I think that team could be Sheffield Wednesday. I'm not saying that I disregard their chances. I'm saying there is a chance. So I think 10th place is playing it relatively safe, you know, when you consider they were a top 10/top 6 team in the second half of the season with Danny Roll. Maybe the fact that they were in the relegation zone kept driving them forwards to keep getting results to try and lift them out. I suppose if you're mid-table, your motivation isn't quite as high as when you're in the bottom 3. I'm not trying to be funny and say that Sheffield Wednesday won't be motivated next season. I'm just making a point about how they were so driven last season. But if Danny Roll can drive them forwards this season, then top 10, yeah, I can see it. Jan Valery, Jamal Lowe, they could all be decent signings here. The only thing, as we said before, Chansiri just makes me a little bit nervous. I think if I was a Sheffield Wednesday fan, I think that's the only thing I'd be relatively unhappy about coming into the new season. Otherwise, it is looking pretty good. On to the next team, Sunderland. Probably to be expected. Myself and Sophie haven't put Sunderland as high. I could see it. I could see Sunderland getting up there. You know, we saw in their first season in the Championship after League One, they got straight into the playoffs. So to finish 9th isn't even the same achievement. Do you know what I mean? But considering they were in the bottom half last year, the bookies have really put them up, and I think a lot of it does come down to the size of club. You know, quite a few people might put something on Sunderland to go up this year, but as we address their business, there hasn't been a lot. Alan Brown is the one that stood out for me. There was Simon Moore, who I don't think would be a starter, Ian Poveda, but is a new manager as well, which comes with a sort of unknown factor. You know, they could finish anywhere, I suppose, but top 9, I'm sure it's possible. Sunderland fans, share your thoughts. On to the top 8 then, and we have West Brom, Leeds, Coventry, Burnley, Luton, Norwich, Borough and Sheffield United, and I think these have got to be the 8 favourites to be in the playoff picture. But as I said, I'm not saying a team from outside of this can't make it. I think with a good run, Sheffield Wednesday, Hull City maybe, QPR, but this is what I came down to, and the bookies have gone with the same. In 8th place, they've gone for Norwich. A little bit of that unknown factor with the new manager in Thorup really could deliver. Honestly, I'm not just trying to sound dramatic here. I wouldn't be surprised if Norwich finished in the top 4 or something. They're a club with potential. We've spoke about their business, Mahovo, Cordoba as well, Theo Adelusi, and the main thing is the stars from last season, Sarah, Rowe, Sargent. So I can't really see them being any worse. 8th is as low as I would go. So that's where the bookies have gone. On to 7th place, and this is difficult here because I've looked at quite a few bookies and they're kind of split between 2 teams to get into the final playoff place. So I might put them both in there because the odds are so similar. It's West Brom and Coventry. They're both kind of tied for 6th and 7th place, so you could do what you want here. I'm going to put Coventry in front because of alphabetical order, and I support them. But I think they've both got a chance, haven't they? West Brom and Coventry, the bookies think they'll be in and around the picture again. West Brom, they did make the playoffs this year. Coventry didn't. The year before, Coventry did, and West Brom didn't. West Brom finished 5th last year. Coventry finished 5th the year before. Look, they've both got a chance. West Brom, we've spoken about Diakate, Joe Wildsmith. They've kind of cleared the deadwood with players like Adam Reach going out, who I don't think was particularly great for them. Thomas Asante is still there. And as we said for Coventry, still got all of our best players in Sheaf, Sakamoto, Sims, Wright, and now you sprinkle on top of that Mason Clark, Radoni. I think they've both got a chance. Share your thoughts, guys. If it was a toss-up between Coventry and West Brom, who do you think makes it? Because in my prediction, I've put them both in the playoffs. On to 5th place, we've got Sheffield United. Probably the most divisive team when it comes to predictions. I thought me and Sophie were playing it fairly safe by putting Sheffield United in the playoffs, but we've had some people saying, no they're not, they're going to finish bottom half, and we've had some people saying, automatics. You can't win, you can't please everyone. I think the playoffs is a relatively safe bet. A 2-point deduction isn't great, but it's not the end of the world. If they win on the opening day, they're already up to 1 point. And then on top of that, their business has been a bit better. Yes, I don't think it's complete yet. They need to bring in a few more faces and still see what happens with the likes of Gustavo Hamer. But there was that day, wasn't there, where they signed Kiefer Moore and Callum O'Hare, and it felt like, okay, they've got an idea now. And with Chris Wilder, you've got to fancy them to do pretty well in this division. On to the top 4 then, and the bookies do like a bit of Middlesbrough. They've got to be a hot pick this season. So if you put them in the playoffs, I was a bit sort of like, do they get in there, don't they? But I think a lot of you in the comments of that video we did the other day have put Middlesbrough up there. And there is good reason. Michael Carrick has been there for a couple of years. Continuity. They've got a goal scorer in Latte Lath. They've got plenty of decent players. And the business in terms of players coming in, like Bergzorg, Luke Ayling, Aidan Morris. I think this is a strong team to be in the playoffs. And the bookies do fancy them for the top 4. But this is where it gets really hard because there's not a lot between the top 3. You've got Leeds, Burnley and Luton, who I do think will be the top 3. And interestingly enough, the bookies have actually gone the same as my prediction for the top 3 in order. In 3rd place, Luton Town. Luton are going to be up there this season. You know, I can't see them being lower than the playoffs. I really can't. I think they're so well run. And they went up to the Premier League with one eye on the possibility of coming down. I don't think they went up thinking, right, we're going to come down. They did give it a go. They were the best team that went up. But they have come down, but they didn't go crazy. And I think it stands them in good stead. Still got Adebayo, still got Morris. Yes, Barkley left, but that was probably inevitable. And Rob Edwards is there. I think they've got to be right up there. And then Burnley, top 2. I suppose with Burnley it's going to be a bit more difficult than Luton because they've got a new manager and they've had a bigger change in personnel. That makes it a little bit more unpredictable, but I still think I'd be surprised if Burnley were any lower than the playoffs. But the bookies in their final prediction have got Burnley in the top 2. I think you've got to fancy them, especially after what they did last time. They're going to be really strong. So Burnley in the top 2. As we've said, still got the likes of Koleosho, Amdouni, Berger. And on top of that, you know, bringing in players like Esteve and Trezor and Lucas Perez and Hladky. I think Hladky is a good keeper for this division. We saw that with Ipswich. So Burnley are top 2. And the bookies are joining myself and Sophie by predicting Leeds to win the league. Just so much quality. And the thing is, I don't think this transfer window has been amazing from Leeds. I don't think it's been amazing. It's not been terrible, but it's not been amazing. They've not brought in loads of quality. I suppose the key thing is they've held on to most of the quality. And it's all down to how do they start. I think you could say for Leeds, Middlesbrough, Coventry, those teams that didn't quite fulfil what they wanted last season, it's all down to bad starts. You need to hit the ground running. And I think Leeds United, if they do, they could be unstoppable. They went on some incredible runs last season. And with Daniel Farke, who does need to deliver, they are being tipped to win the league by the bookies. So that is the bookies' final predictions. Share your thoughts on that down in the comments, guys, because that is what they're going with. I mean, I've kind of got a top 7 here. Let's just put West Brom there. But the bookies are split between Coventry and West Brom, so you can put them in either order. So then, guys, do share your thoughts down below. That's the final look at the bookies' predictions. We did look at it earlier in the summer, but now we've got an idea for what they think will happen this season, or what they've put the odds to be for this season. Share your thoughts down below, guys. If you haven't already shared your championship predictions for the season, get them in the comments. Do make sure to support this video by dropping a like and subscribing. We're so close to 70,000 subscribers, which would be amazing. And we will see you tomorrow for Sophie and my Premier League predictions for the upcoming season. See you in the next one. Take care. Peace out.